Alright guys, how you doing? Hero None here, explaining what we're using here with a DPS tank build. This is not a great DPS tank build, but it's what we use here at stream while we're doing most of our dungeons and doing the DPS mode tank. There are other better ways to do this, absolutely. I just don't have the materials or the time to really waste with some of it, so I basically took together some of the different sets that I currently had, put them together for a tank build, and here's what we got. So currently we're using 5-piece Black Rose. You can get these from vendors pretty cheap right now because a lot of people don't use heavy armor in general because it doesn't do what people want it to for a lot of the fights here. It doesn't mitigate enough. It doesn't do enough damage. It doesn't do enough regenerations, etc. But the reason I kind of went with Black Rose is because it gives us a little bit of health, gives us a bit of stamina, and then the 5-piece on this gives us Constitution bonus, plus also raises up our weapon and spell damage. So talking DPS tank, we're getting the stamina, we're getting the weapon damage, getting some constitution, so if we get hits, we can get some of our materials back. That's a pretty good trade-off to me. We're also using Pariah. Currently, I'm using 3-piece on this, and I'm using about agility down here for this. We'll get into that in a minute. We're using Mulligan as pile drones up here. We have impenetrable. You could probably go with a little bit better. Currently, our traits on this are just basically divines and fused on what we could get. Like I said, I just got these off vendors, so they're pretty cheap. They weren't going for that much. I couldn't get an optimal setup here, so you probably want to have infused on these items here. Pariah, you can only get dropped inside of Orsinium. If you can get it, if you can get a set for this and get some rings, it's a pretty good set, I think, just for some general tanking. Molokina, great for some extra damage if you want to get weapon damage or something else like that. Now, for our jewelry, again, we're using 2-piece Pariah. I got currently the neck and the ring here, V16. Great for getting the weapon damage. I would not recommend, like, you can put a piece of V15 like headgear here, but like the jewelry, you really want to have to be V16 so you can get the damage enchantments on there. Currently, we have weapon damage enchantments on ours. And we also have 1 ring of agility as well. We're using healthy on these, and some also some robust as well. You can also switch these out with robust as well. We're probably pretty good with our health the way it is, but we'll get into what food we use in a minute. I'm using currently a sword and shield of agility, and 2 sword and dagger of agility as well. These are pretty inexpensive. You can usually get them pretty cheap on the vendors. Only thing you need is 1 ring of agility. If you're getting a healthy ring, it's not too expensive for you guys. You can get this stuff usually pretty cheap. But if you want to, you can also go ahead into the Imperial City, grind some of this stuff up, or you can just get it from end bosses inside some of the dungeons here. That would work too. Now, for what we're using on the bars here, on our main sword and board bar, we're using Pierce Armor for our main taunt. We're using Unstable Flame, Stone Giant, Invigorating Drain, and Immovable Brute. And our ultimate currently is Corrosive Armor. Okay, this is going to be used constantly to keep the aggro on you. Also a good way to build up some damage here as we're doing stuff. Unstable Flame we're using to add in a dot, which does a lot of good damage to it as well. Stone Giant. This gives us Minor Resolve and Major Resolve, which gives us just a little bit extra resistance, which is helpful for this build as it is right now. Invigorating Drain, we're using this because I'm a vampire. If you're not a vampire, you can put another ability in here. There are plenty of other good ones here as well. You can use Green Dragon Blood under the bow line, or sorry, under the sword and board line. You can also use Absorb Magic, or you could use Invasion if you want to get to enemies quicker as well. But make sure not to spam that too much if you're using, if you don't have a low stamina pool for yourself. We're also using Immovable Brute. You could also use instead Volta Armor, but I like the ability with the Immovable Brute just to be able to get myself out, break free a lot easier per the heavy piece that we're using. Also gives us immunity while we're using this Minor and Major Resolve. If you take a look at my Armor Master build, it's a very similar build bar to this as well, so I don't have to like change a whole lot to this. You can also go ahead and slot, where is it here? Sword and board. Heroic Slash if you want to get some more ultimate, which is also helpful for you as well. Now, for our ultimate, we're using Corrosive Armor. Most tanks probably are actually going to be using Magma Shell. I have this one here because I do damage on other builds. I like corrosive armor because it ignores armor, but the main part of corrosive armor or magma shell in general is just the fact that it will reduce all incoming damage. So if you have a oh shit moment, I'm gonna get hit by something big here, or I have to go ahead and res the healer. You pop this, you go ahead and res somebody, you're good. Now on our other bar, our two-handed bar, we're using Flying Blade because it gives us a bit of extra. It gives us brutality and it's a good bit of damage as well. We're using Blood Craze because I can go ahead and use this on an enemy, swap over to my other bar here, and this dot will still be going on the back bar. Same with Flying Blade as well. I'll swipe that, do that, swap back over, put my Unstable Flame in, weave in some Pierce Armor attacks. It's not too bad. Steel Tornado is a great way to get some aggro on a group of enemies, especially when you guys are running in trying to AoE. You want to just go ahead and do this and spin around and see if you can get some damage on them. And since we're currently doing a damage setup, we're using Molten Armaments because the heavy attacks with this is very good. However, if you're going to be doing this with a group that you're not sure of, don't use it. Go ahead and use Igneous Shield. Swap that in. The reason I say this is because you don't know if a group has a good healer, if they're paying attention, if they're watching your health bar. This can save you at times, especially when you're combining it with Vigor, which is another PvP ability. Pop the Igneous Shield here, spam your Vigor a few times, and that can get you back up into sustainable health range if you need to. If you have a group that you're trusting and you know that they can do their job, go ahead and pop Molten Armaments in there. You should be pretty good. Finally, we're using Devouring Swarm because this is basically an AoE bar trying to get some damage on a group of enemies when we're trying to come in there. Devouring Swarm is not that bad. You can also go with Burning Breath, but I've had some issues with Burning Breath. I can't always be sure I'm hitting the enemy for some reason. I see that sometimes it will, sometimes that it won't. If you have that same issue as I do, okay, you can go ahead and pop up Blood Craze. The other reason I don't like Burning Breath as well, it just does Major Fracture as well. When I try looking at the enemies when I taunt on using Pierce Armor, I typically look for that crackled health bar that they have above their head. Pierce Armor does that thing with Major Fracture and Major Breach, so you can see that when it's in there. But when you have a different ability like Burning Breath here that does the same thing, you can also run into issues where you pop that Burning Breath, then oh shit, I gotta get some aggro on this thing. You pop Pierce Armor onto one or two of its enemies beside it, but you don't actually aggro that one enemy, and then it's going ahead and it's going to chew the face off your healer. That's not a good way to get through that. So that's currently what we're using on this. If you're not a vampire, you can swap out Devouring Swarm instead, probably with Take Flight. That does a bit more damage. It still does some good AoE. Or you can do it with Shifting Standard. That's good as well. But the reason I kind of like Devouring Swarm is it's a lower ultimate cost. So maybe Take Flight would be the better one for that. For what we use on our pot bar, typically we're using Essence of Health. Try pots with extra healing to them as well. But if you want to, you can also go ahead and go with straight up stamina pots. That will help you through some of that as well. Now, for food, I do recommend... where is it here? Yeah, it is. Orgum's Trifle Recipe. So, before we get into, the stats here, let's take a look. We're looking at about 9,515 Magicka. Very low Magicka recovery. Our maximum health right now is 24k. A little bit low for running a dungeon. You can do that, but it's low. Health recovery is 300. We're vampires, so that gets nerfed. Maximum stamina, currently we're looking at 22,000, which is where we want to be for a good tank for DPS type thing. But our stamina recovery kind of piss poor, 692. So we're going to take this up here. Now our maximum health is now 30,000, and our stamina recovery is about 1,200. That's right where we want to be. And as you notice, our weapon damage as well is about 2407. A good place we want to be with our crit as well. We're about 35k. Our spell resistance 20k. Our physical resistance 18k. We go ahead and pop our major ward there. Now we notice that we're 27 and 25. That's respectable levels for any type of dungeon where you're trying to do DPS and also tanking where you're trying to do it too. Don't get yourself don't commit yourself too much to this though. Like, you're a tank, you're a DPS, but still do your job. Tank. Don't go ahead and try doing major damage to stuff there when you have somebody hitting your healer or somebody hitting your DPS. If you're facing a major boss, still block, still watch yourself in there. Oh, I should also mention as well, we're using the Tower boon here to increase our stamina. If you want to, you can also go with the Warrior for extra weapon damage, but then you're not going to have as much stamina in the back end. You can go with the Thief for extra weapon crit, but again, you're not getting stamina that can help you in other areas there too. And you can go with Lord, but then you're kind of stacking a little bit too much health. Like, I currently have way too many points put into health right now. We're 55.9. I also swap into damage, so I'd probably recommend instead what I did on my character here is I put a bunch of stamina runes in this. If you haven't committed to it yet, go ahead and put most of your attribute points up into stamina here, okay? And then when you're tanking, just put in some health runes. That'll help you transition between your tank set and your DPS set a lot easier when you're doing as well. The other reason I like this build right now, though, is that I can also get into my what I call a traditional low block build here with a Blood Spawn, Armor Master, and Footman setup without losing too much here. And as you can see, I'm just getting more health here, more spell and physical resistance here on the back end of this. But this does less damage, so we're not using this typically unless we're like looking at a major fight where I have to do major tanking. So this damage set here is typically what we use for damage or tanking fights here. If you have any questions about that, go ahead and put comments down below in the description there. Hopefully that's some useful stuff there. Make sure as well that you don't take this build and just go and say that this is the way it has to be. Modify it, make it work for you. Use the abilities that work toward your character, okay? I'll catch you all a little bit later. Have a good one. And 3,